The Patriots drafted 11 players and then signed 19 players to the UDFAs, which means they've got to start cutting some people. That's exactly what New England did. They have already released 6 players to cut down to the 90-man roster. So we're going to break down those recent releases, and then we're also on the back half of the show going to talk about 3 possible cut candidates that could make their way out of New England starting today, all the way leading up to the end of training camp. Welcome to Patriots Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Allie, Barefoot. If you guys are finally ready for the 2025 season, go on ahead and hit that thumbs up button for me. I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I feel like once the draft is over with, then I'm just ready to watch football. I don't care about training camp or OTAs. I just want to get to September. Go on ahead, hit that thumbs up button for me if you guys haven't already. Couple of names here: Marcus Harris, Jaquay Jackson, and Titus Leo have been released. I actually made a video yesterday talking about how the wide receiver room is already pretty full, and they immediately, right after that video went out, released Jaquay Jackson. So a lot of these guys really just kind of bounce back between the practice squad and the 53-man roster, but here is where it starts to get a little bit surprising. They ended up releasing center Jake Andrews, which did have a prominent role last year because of David Andrews' injury. They ended up signing Ben Brown. They were flip-flopping between quarterbacks, Brissett, May. So seeing Jake Andrews go was also a pretty big surprise to me, but the biggest surprise of all is they released longtime New England Patriot Joe Cardona, the long snapper and first-time captain in the 2024 season. And believe it or not, Joe Cardona was actually the last member of that Super Bowl core since they got rid of Dietrich Wise Jr. and Jonathan Jones in free agency. And then, of course, they recently released David Andrews. Cardona was the last player that had played with Tom Brady and won a couple of rings. So now that Super Bowl core is officially done. But he played for New England for over 10 seasons. Other than David Andrews, he was the longest tenured player on the roster. And, of course, last year was his first year being a captain. Now, it's starting to notice a little bit of a theme here with Mike Vrabel. Releasing David Andrews, letting Dietrich Wise and Jonathan Juniors go in free agency. Vrabel is clearly trying to get a little bit younger. Or maybe he's just trying to literally rebuild from the ground up. So really unfortunate that Joe Cardona is not going to be with the Patriots this season, but you kind of also knew this move was coming because they did draft a long snapper in the 7th round, Julian Ashby. Long snappers, there's really no competition. You pretty much have one. They're not really injury prone in my experience of watching the NFL. So when they drafted Julian Ashby, a light bulb went off my head and I was like, damn, looks like they're going to probably get rid of Joe Cardona. That's exactly what they did. They were actually the only team in the NFL to draft a long snapper. Most of the time, they just pick them up in UDFAs and put them on the practice squad. So clearly, this was a well-thought-out move by Mike Vrabel and Elliott Wolf. But doesn't mean we're not going to miss Joe Cardona. I mean, it's a name you can say to any Patriots fan. They're going to know exactly who you're talking about. And I also do think that if he is a long snapper that you know the name of, well, he obviously meant something to Patriots fans. So if you're going to miss Joe Cardona, go on ahead and like this video for me. If you guys haven't already, go on ahead and give him some love. Now, while there's not really a competition at that position of long snapper, there are about 2 positions that I am really excited for heading into training camp because I do think there's going to be a good amount of player competitions going on at that slate. Number 1 is going to be that center position, and that's because we did release Jake Andrews. Now we're down to 4. So you've got Garrett Bradbury, which you did recently sign in free agency here, but then you drafted Jared Wilson in the 3rd round. So clearly you've got a need for a guy like Wilson too. And then Ben Brown also signed him off the Raiders practice squad last year, worked a lot with Drake May. And then Cole Strange is kind of a floater between the left guard position and that center position as well. So I'm very intrigued here to the competition that's going to happen between Bradbury and Wilson. I think that's going to be a nice little veteran versus the rookie competition, and I wouldn't rule out Wilson not being able to beat out Bradbury. And then, of course, the other competition I will be watching here is the Patriots wide receivers. As you guys can see here, they have 9 total receivers right now on their 90-man roster, and they cannot keep 90 receivers on their roster. So that leads us to a couple of cut candidates that could possibly happen between now and the end of training camp, really trying to work down some of those positions, and possibly just because they drafted younger guys, maybe they just want to say goodbye to some elder players on the New England Patriots. So number 1, here's a bit of a surprise, right? They could end up cutting Mack Hollins Allie, they just signed Mack Hollins. Why would they immediately release him? Well, I think it's going to come down to the training camp and what he's able to provide. Now, they obviously picked up Mack Hollins in free agency, but that was before they had Kyle Williams. That was before they had Stephon Diggs. And I do think that Hollins is definitely a locker room type of guy that Vrabel is going to enjoy, and he's definitely a football guy through and through, and he's obviously a bit of a quack. You've seen him just barefoot everywhere he absolutely goes. But this guy will do anything that you ask him on the football field. That's why I think Vrabel initially really liked him. But since then, we've added a plethora of receivers to this wide receiver core, and as you guys can see here, this is probably going to be your three top receivers. Wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, Kyle Williams, and then Demario Douglas at your slot. But that does still lead Kendrick Bourne, Mack Hollins, Kayshon Boutte, Javon Baker, Jalen Polk, and a bunch of other players that they're going to have to try and work out and find a position for them. So that's why I think it's really going to come down to training camp. Mack Hollins, while he was signed in free agency, he may be booted before the 2025 season does start. If Polk ends up showcasing some of the skills we wanted to see last year in training camp this year, then maybe Mack Hollins ends up falling down the depth chart. Or maybe he gets beat out by the younger guys, Kayshon Boutte or Javon Baker. So I think that Hollins, just because we picked him up more recently, doesn't mean that his position is 110% secure heading into September. So I'll ask you guys this. Who is a cut candidate for New England in your eyes? Go ahead and comment some names in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys are thinking. I think Mack Hollins could end up being on the chopping block if he doesn't show out. And another surprising cut candidate here for me, I was actually talking to another Patriots fan in the office about this earlier, could be safety Jabril Peppers. He is currently signed through 2027 and obviously was a captain for the defense last year until he lost those captain responsibilities because of some things that happened off the field. Now, while the NFL and there have been legal consequences have been dropped against a guy like Peppers, because of his age, in the early 30s, and also because of what he dealt with last year, although those charges were ultimately dropped, Mike Vrabel may see some younger guys that have some pretty good talent and may say goodbye to a guy like Jabril Peppers, because as you guys can see here, right now in the safety room, Kyle Duggar, who had ankle surgery in the offseason, and then Jabril Peppers, those are kind of your anchors at free and strong safety. So you still have Marcus Epps, Del Pettis, Brendan Schooler, more of a special teams guy. Then you recently picked up Craig Woodson in the 4th round, along with Jalen Hawkins, who picked up majority of the workload when Jabril Peppers was out last year, and then Marte Mapu, who's worked really well with guys in the secondary like Christian Gonzalez and Del Pettis as well. So I don't think it's time just yet to cut Jabril Peppers. I still have to wait and see how these younger guys are going to mesh well with the defense. But if Craig Woodson is able to come out of UCal, absolutely dominate in the offseason, whether it's in our eyes or in Mike Vrabel's eyes, I could see him possibly getting the nod over a guy like Jabril Peppers just because of his age and what has happened in the last season. But I don't think it's time just yet. I do think we still have a while to go. And I do think Peppers will suit up this year, but it could be a name that might not make it if it all comes down to it. Before I bring up the last possible cut candidate, let me go ahead and make sure you guys are up to date with the number 1 pick for the Patriots this year. You guys can rep him. Will Campbell, his jersey is live right now, chatsports.com/Will Campbell. However, he will not be wearing number 1. They use all rookies on this website to just give them the number 1 jersey. So when he finally has his number, they will send you the correct jersey. So do not worry, you will not get a Campbell number 1 jersey, but you will get a Campbell jersey. Just use this link, chatsports.com/Will Campbell. Pick up the latest rookies jersey. I'll also put it in the comment section down below. Click that link. It'll take you right there. This one's not really much of a surprise. It's actually been up in the air for a while now. Kendrick Bourne, he's now the 2nd oldest receiver in the room behind Stephon Diggs. Don't quote me on that, but he is up there. He's in his 30s. Kendrick Bourne signed through 2026, and clearly he just came back from an injury last year. Didn't have the full production season that we probably wanted him to, but let's be honest, no receiver did because Alex Van Pelt was just not a great offensive coordinator. So a guy like Kendrick Bourne should be on your radar because of guys like Kyle Williams, Baker, and Polk that are still a lot younger and still haven't really even touched. We don't even know what their ceiling is, just yet. So here's what Chad Graff of The Athletic had to say about possibly cutting Kendrick Bourne. He said, this is probably where the most intense training camp competitions will take place. Most teams keep 5 or 6 wide receivers on the roster, and the Pats will have a tough time getting down to just 6. Diggs, Hollins, Williams, and Douglas should safely make the team, but everything else is up in the air. The guess for now is that the biggest battle is between Polk and Bourne. And the early prediction is that the Patriots bank on getting more out of Polk than Bourne, who will turn 30 during training camp. So that actually did just prove my point. He's the second oldest wide receiver on the Patriots team right now. And I know you probably don't trust Polk to put a lot of balls in his hands. That's what she said. But I understand, but you have to realize that last year was kind of an anomaly. The Patriots didn't really know what to do with their offense. I feel like we haven't seen anything from Polk yet, except that he drops a lot of balls, and maybe he's worked on that. Maybe he's gotten better. So I'm not saying Bourne's going to be cut, but if Polk finally does step up and reach his potential and reaches, his own statement of I have the best hands in the NFL, then maybe Bourne might get the boot. But until then, it's going to be a good competition. That's why I asked you guys, which one would you rather have on the roster? Jalen Polk type JP, Kendrick Bourne type KB in the comment section down below. As always, if you guys haven't already, go ahead, hit that sub button for me on Patriots Today by Chat Sports. Help us reach 26,000 loyal subscribers.